Welcome to Bridge Out Ahead, the podcast where we dig into what's under construction in life, business, and community. I'm your host, Bridger Hopkins, and around here we're honest about the journey, the progress, the setbacks, and the unexpected turns that teach us something worth passing along. Today, Adrianne Reiners, a business consultant in northern Minnesota, joins us on Bridge Out Ahead. We're going to dig into her zigzag of a career path that blends with her personal and professional life and have led her into building a portfolio career is probably the best way to put it, generating revenue from multiple work streams while building future on a farm as well. So after transplanting from rural Minnesota, from Minneapolis, she found her calling to live in a bolder, more vulnerable life, sharing parts of her story to help others learn so that they have the power to choose their future too.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Bridger. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you've got a really interesting background. Kind of goes in a lot of different directions.
Yep.
I was wondering, maybe you could start right away and share with, what did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. An interesting life is definitely one way to describe it. It's non-traditional. So I started working at a coffee shop. Worked there for Caribou Coffee, actually, for about 5 years and moved my way up the chain. And that's where I got a lot of foundational understanding of business operations for efficiency, especially. When I joined them, they were about 15 years old. So they were right at the peak of developing all of their operations. Okay. And I gobbled that up. So I had a great time working in coffee. I took a hard left and left coffee to work in automotive. So I actually changed oil for a couple years. Yep. Which was a wonderful time. Sometimes I actually miss changing oil because I miss the smell of oil. I don't miss showering with Dawn dish soap, but I definitely miss the fast pace and learning new things and getting dirty. You're constantly covered in oil and dirt. So
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
smells different than the coffee shop.
Yes, very very distinctly different smells. Absolutely.
And even with that. Was that really the trajectory you were headed on right away?
It was not. So I had left coffee. I had taken a job with another small business. And when I'm, in early 20s, I wasn't smart enough to get a lot of things in writing. So what they verbally offered to me was not actually what the job was. So I had left my career that I was moving forward in coffee, took this other opportunity, and then they were like, oh, actually, we just decided to make you a cashier. And I was like, ooh, actually, that doesn't work for me. So I left, and it was around 2011. So trying to find another job was actually really, really challenging. McDonald's wouldn't hire me because they said I was overqualified. So at the time, my ex worked for a fast change oil company, and I was like, well, do you think I could do it? And he was like, yeah, I think you could learn it. So I ended up getting an interview, and I told him I know nothing about cars, but I know a lot about people. So if you're looking for someone who can really deal with people well, I'm your person. And then they brought me on to be a manager.
Cool.
Yeah.
And even going back before that, what's your background in education?
Sure. Yeah, I dropped out of college. So when I was in high school, I thought, I know, I'm going to be an inner city youth pastor. This was the only plan that I built for myself. So I applied to one school in Chicago, Illinois. Got in, thank goodness, at the time. And then I was very busy drinking every night while then also volunteering with kids and telling them to make wise choices. And that level of hypocrisy just ate me up. So I, within the first semester, called my parents and I was like, I just don't like school anymore. I just want to come home. And so they made it very challenging, I think, in an attempt to be very loving and keep me on course. Because they were like, well, where are you going to live? And what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I thought I'd come home and live with you. And they're like, well, we'll figure out how much we'll charge you rent. And that taught me a lot about how the world works and that there are consequences to decisions that you make. So I basically emptied my bank account to drop out of college and continued my coffee career from that point forward. And shortly after that, my mom actually was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So if I would have been in college, I would have been taking finals at the time frame she was being diagnosed. So would I have even passed my finals? There's so many what ifs that could have unfolded from that. Mm-hmm. And I look back and I'm like, it was the right decision that I made for myself at the time. And so that is the end of my formal education. The rest is life experience and self-taught.
Stuff that you've put together from these very different
Yes.
career fields.
Whether it's the food industry or the automotive industry. And then at one point I switched over to tech. So yeah, I'm a nice build of different skills and backgrounds.
Yeah. And, going back to, once things kind of started to unravel for the one path you had in mind.
Yeah.
How did your community that you had around you impact it? You said even your parents kind of giving you that tough love.
Yeah.
Drained your bank account, but set you up maybe on a different trajectory.
They definitely set me up to understand, that your finance is how the world goes around. And so I wouldn't say that I necessarily had a community because I was 19. So I'd left, my high school and went off to college, and everybody else went off to college. So when I came back, all of my friends were basically doing their own thing and driving their own career paths and futures.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that it didn't necessarily go well. I ended up finding myself in a lot of places that got me into a lot of trouble and searching, I'd say, for love and community and connection in a lot of wrong places. And that ties into some of my mental health and why I have done a lot of work on that to change my mindsets, which has ultimately made me an entrepreneur today.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back at that younger version of yourself, is if there was one thing you could say to you back then, what would that be?
Don't give up. Don't give up. That's what I would say.
You ended up losing your mom at a young age as well. Lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And you touched a little bit on mental health stuff as well. Would you kind of dig into that a little bit?
Absolutely. My mom passing when I was 20, I think for any young adult, losing a parent is something that is inevitable, but not at such a young age. Mm-hmm. My family, I have 2 older sisters. One's 12 years older and one's 6 years older. So we're all pretty different in our own unique, wonderful ways. But that also meant where they were at in their seasons of life was very different. So it was a very isolating time is how it felt for me. Mm-hmm. I stayed home. I was living with my dad. And obviously him losing his wife of 30 years was a major impact. But there was some role reversal there. And I kind of became a parent in that house. Mm-hmm. And so that had an impact. I mean, your brain's not fully developed till you're 25. And so that had an impact on how I thought about myself. And then I think layered with some of the experiences that I had while searching for love in all the wrong places, it really doubled down on this self-loathing and a lack of self-worth. And my first marriage was not a great marriage. I think that there were a lot of things that on paper look really great, but it was not. It was actually a very toxic and abusive relationship. And it took me a very long time to figure that out. And all of that compounded into a place where I was not the person I am today. I was very shoulders all the way up to my ears. And people would say that I was very controlling, which at the time was true because if it wasn't in my control, it felt scary and chaotic. Mm-hmm. And so then I would feel really triggered and have a lot of emotional reactions. And so I had a panic attack one day at a stoplight in Minneapolis out of nowhere. And I was like, I have to get help. Like, I have to figure it out. I have tried so many things and nothing has worked. Navigating the mental health system is actually very challenging with insurance and what's going to get covered, who's in network. There was a lot of complications. So I went to a free resource in Minneapolis and I was like, I want to pay someone. I just can't figure out how to find them. They got me in touch with a therapist and it was a great fit, which is very lucky. I'd tried several others before that. Not great. But I ended up working with her and over time, she helped to peel back some of these layers where I realized she told me I have PTSD. And I had a very hard time accepting that because I'm not a veteran or I haven't experienced what I would consider these major traumatic things. Mm-hmm. But then when you look at some of these things that have compounded in my life, they are trauma. They're just a different form of trauma and how that's impacted my brain. Mm-hmm. So my work with her has been very intentional about rewiring my brain through the process of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR for the acronym. And you're basically going into your mind and finding these neural pathways that you've believed a negative belief for a really long time, like I'm not worthy or I'm not valuable. And then you are working through that emotional reaction and then replacing it with a positive belief. I am worthy and I am valuable.
Wow. How has that specifically changed your work or your life, how you see yourself?
Yeah. I think that I had this huge mindset lens of everyone was out to get me. So when I think about my 20s, I think I was very defensive. I was very prickly. I would not take constructive criticism. I knew everything like all 23-year-olds do.
Yeah.
And that is a really hard place to live in. And then when things don't go your way, you're angry. And like that is a lot of energy to carry around with you that has no purpose.
It's focused on the wrong things. It doesn't move you forward.
Exactly. So then working through my mental health struggles and finding new habits, new mindsets, and, it doesn't stop the thought of like, oh, well, I'm not worthy or I'm a piece of crap or this. These thoughts will still come in. It's now today is like, liar. And it's a pivot. And so now how can I think about something positive? Without being a positive Pollyanna or toxic positivity, like things can be hard and we can have a positive mindset.
Yep. So we kind of talked about sort of your personal life and your professional life. Where were you at when did those kind of maybe converge where you started going in the direction you wanted after doing some of your work on yourself and figuring out what was going on in the background for you?
Yeah. I think it was a couple years ago that I realized I work my butt off. I am like very goal oriented. I love to achieve results. I love to see growth. Also why I grow things on a farm. There's nothing like seeing a sprout, but it's the same concept when it comes to business. And so I realized, well, if I can work 12, 14, 16-hour days for somebody else, why can't I do it for myself? So I really looked back at my career and I was like, well, I don't know what I would even build for a business because, automotive, tech, restaurant, hospitality, it's a wide variety of things. And at the same time, I would say the generalist movement was starting to happen on LinkedIn, which is a space that I've spent a lot of time in from my professional career. Okay. And that's when I realized I'm actually a generalist. I know a lot of things about a lot of things. And that's when I was like, okay, I can do this. I can sell my generalist skill set, except you can't because people don't know what that is.
Yeah, I can do anything.
Right. It's a really hard sell. So then I had to, define a niche, and that's where I was like, okay, I know people. I've got 20 years working with people, and I understand customer experience. So I'll sell marketing. And poof, all of a sudden I have a full roster and a wait list. So, yeah.
And so how long ago was it that you finally made that leap to start working for yourself and start your own? And then did you do that all in right away, or did you, like myself, kind of phased in, did something on the side, and then it became something that I could move to full time? What was your story like?
Well, I woke up one morning in July and decided we were going to have a farm. So my husband got out of bed and I was like, I registered us with the state today. And he was like, what? You hadn't even had coffee yet? And I was like, surprise, we're doing it. That is the slow roll, I would say. So everything with the farm, we bought a property that has no infrastructure. I'm not a farmer. I don't come from a farming family. So I have a lot to learn. So that is the slow roll. I would call my side hustle to my freelance work. I did a full leap into freelance work, and that was about 2 years ago. Okay. So I left full-time work, and I was like, I will figure it out. And the 1 week later, I had someone call and say, hey, I know you're looking for work. This is a really mundane task, but I don't have time for it. Can I pay you $50 an hour to take screenshots? And I was like, yes, you can absolutely pay me $50 an hour to take screenshots.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, when you start in on your business full time. When I made that leap, people are like, oh, would you want to do this? You're like, yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah.
I will say yes to a lot
absolutely
right now because I need to get some experience. I need some money.
Right.
I need to get this moving, build a portfolio of stuff that I've done.
Right.
And then now, you put it on your list, screenshots. I've got this down.
Yes. It was she needed a whole presentation for something, and she needed all these screenshots, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. But then somebody reached out and they said, will you build us a website? And I was like, yep, I sure can. So I did a lot of things at the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey that were a great way to make some money and experience, like you said. And then I think also having a generous spirit has been helpful in being able to say, how can I help you? Because I know I'm going to learn from it. And so if this is a way for me to gain skills while also benefiting someone. So I did a lot of that my first year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And with that too, you're building a skill set, and also you find out okay, I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
and that can be just as important on what you say yes to, because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Exactly.
And when you're charting your own track, sometimes it's easy to say, well, yeah, I want to do that, or I should do that. Somebody wants me to do this, I can do that.
Yep.
You say yes, and then you miss out on other opportunities. Your bandwidth's taken up. And so that's a big learning process as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last year, I'm like, this is a great story, so I'm going to take the mic and say it. I had said yes to a client that I thought was like very aligned. I'm sure we'll get to it. I'm building women's community here in our local area, and this was another like women-centric leadership company. And I was like, yes, we are aligned on vision. We are aligned on mission. And then the way that the owner spoke to me was as if I was a horse that she bought at like an auction. And it was like 1 week in, and I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to have to, I fired my client. I was like, I don't even care if you pay me. You can just consider it volunteer work. That's how much I want out of this contract. And like, it taught me a lot about what do I want to say yes to and what do I want to say no to.
Yep. And it can be hard saying no to clients, or like you said, fire a client.
Yep.
And that it's very counterintuitive. Like, well, I work a lot to get clients and maintain them and make them happy. And so knowing when to cut your loss
absolutely
is big.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about Unbound,
Yeah.
the community group you're working on. When did that start and where is that going?
I love it. It started at the same time I took a leap into entrepreneurship. So 3 days after I'd left my full-time role, I went to a marketing conference, fake it till you make it. I was like, just do it scared. We're going to figure it out. Ran into a couple people that I'd had some relationships with locally, but like not deep ones yet. We went out for a drink afterwards, and we all realized we were struggling with some of the same things. And we said, well, if we're struggling alone, why don't we struggle together? And we could just get together once a month and like have a conversation about these topics. And so we kicked off Unbound, which is a group of sassy, stubborn, kick booty women who are fearlessly pursuing career growth, business growth, personal growth, community growth. And we're all centering collaboration over competition, with the idea that there's enough pie to go around. There can be two of us farmers in the room, and we don't have to compete with each other. We can actually support one another instead. That started about 2 years ago, and we had our first meeting March of 2024. It's still going. We have a monthly meeting. We changed a little bit of our vision from being about women in business to just women, because all of our conversations actually matter to all women. It's not just business-centric. Sure, talking about marketing may not be enjoyable if you don't have a business, but a lot of the times we're talking about confidence, or we're talking about leadership, we're talking about how you show up and how you overcome some of that self-criticism that you might have. And I think that can apply to all women and really everybody, but having a space where women can come and like really be open and vulnerable has been one of the most rewarding things of my life. So that's still in motion. We've got meetings booked through the end of the year. I have 2 other co-founders that are in it with me, and we're excited to continue growing and expanding and really just like bringing people together with the idea of like we can work together to achieve great things.
Cool. And that, you said, parallel pretty much right with building your own business at the same time. Another term that we hear thrown around a lot is like a mastermind.
Yeah.
Or some kind of group of similar people, maybe somebody who's just ahead of you, somebody just behind you, where you're all bouncing ideas off of each other and being able to move forward.
Yeah.
How big of a role do you think that played directly into your business?
I think it's been a massive role for my business. So I now have this group of women that I get to go to when I'm feeling like, I don't know if I want to release this new service. Can you guys give me some perspective? Or I want to celebrate, like, oh my gosh, I just signed the last client to fill my roster. And like having people that you can just show up and be yourself with has been huge. I have also been able to use that as lead generation, not intentionally. The goal was to develop community and connect with people. And a natural byproduct, I think, is people get to know you more, they build trust, they see the skill and talent that you have, and then you begin working together. So I think that's been something a lot of the different women in businesses in that room have found. I know there were 5 or 6 women that collaborated last summer to launch a retreat. And so that's just another, again, you can collaborate and you can all ships rise with the tide, Yeah. That old quote by somebody back in the 30s.
Yeah, way back when.
Yep.
Over time too, between the Unbound and your business, success sometimes looks different, maybe than a corporate metric that you're weighing against. How have you had to, maybe move away from, well, we serve this many cups of coffee, or got this many oil changes, or in tech, everybody's monitoring all of your stats. How are you doing that in your business and what you're doing to really understand where you're at?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm not. Is
Okay.
the answer. I think that I gauge fulfillment. So am I feeling fulfilled? I have a very full schedule because I have said yes in a lot of places, and I accept that my no goes towards like my free time right now. So I am very fulfilled in all of the different client work that I get to do, as well as the volunteer work that I do. I'm also a board member for a local nonprofit, and I go to bed with a smile on my face, and I wake up with energy and excitement to get to work. And so to me, I'm like, if the revenue is coming in order to pay for the business entity and to provide me with some revenue that helps me build my side hustle, the farm, then that's the win. So I look at my life as a business versus like a line of work as business. So the entirety of my life is my business.
So to carry that further, expand, KPIs, key performance indicators. What are some of the biggest key performance indicators you're looking at, maybe at home?
Yeah, I think these are the silliest KPIs, but I'm going to say them anyways. How much rest I'm getting is actually a big deal. So if I'm not getting enough sleep, if I'm not being able to prioritize taking care of myself, I would say we're not winning. And then I think it's also like being able to find time and intentionally spend time with my family. That's important too.
Yep.
So.
Well, we're going to kind of transition into everything you're doing now.
Sounds great.
So, I guess the biggest question I have is, what is everything that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So I have 9 different brands that I am supporting on social media right now. So a lot of different elements of marketing, all the way from somebody who just needs me to make posters that they can hang up to designing billboards and TV campaigns. So very heavy in the marketing. I can't separate my marketing brain from my operations brain. So that's why what I offer to clients is just a collaboration session or a collaboration rate, because I'm not going to scope down my knowledge just because you hired me for one specific thing. Mm-hmm. So I actually bring a lot of operations to the table as well. This week I had a conversation with a client about email marketing and creating email campaigns and the different types of tools and resources that are out there. So that's a very tech business consultant lens. I also sat down with a client for a 2-hour strategizing session of like, okay, I love that you have all these ideas. I love that you're super excited, and we have to operate on a strategy versus throwing spaghetti at the wall. Mm-hmm. So let's break it down. So when you talk about KPIs, I'm actually helping business owners develop their KPIs. And that has been very fun and enjoyable. I love a brainstorming session. Mm-hmm. And then yet another client of mine, I spent my entire day for them developing content. We have a big sponsorship that we have coming up for that client, and they need a lot of video. So it's finding the right angles, making the videos, then turning around and doing all of that video production.
So you're not just doing the marketing, you're also doing the, I guess you could say, the infrastructure that somebody might need to set up, especially if they're not engaged online,
right,
on other media or mediums now to get their message out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the goal is that I can either pass that forward to them in a clear, you've got standard operating procedures, we've created some structure around how you are working in your business as well as on your business.
And hand it off.
And then hand it off. So it sounds a little weird to be like I'm trying to work myself out of a job, but I'm fractional to all of these individuals. So it's either I'm working myself out and they're hiring someone full-time to do that work, which is huge. That's great. Or I'm working myself to a place where they feel like they have that kind of control and they have the time in order to invest that effort into their business.
And a lot of times you can stay big picture then too, instead of getting caught in the weeds of those tasks that you've figured out.
Right.
Then you can help push that to the next level too.
Yeah, exactly. It's exciting. I like all of it. So that's what also makes it hard. It's now I'm in a new season of evaluating what comes next for the business and knowing I have a wait list. Now it's a question of like, well, what do I want to be working on and where do I want to be learning and what kind of impact do I want to be having? So I have a lot of open questions for myself for the next year.
Yes, you bring up having to make a lot of decisions now. What route you want to go? Do you niche down, get more specific, or do you grow? Or are you looking to grow? Maybe you have somebody else who comes in and does the tasks that you're setting up. Have you thought what could be next?
Love it. Yes. I think that is a route that I could explore, bringing on a team and kind of developing an agency. I do have a few people in mind, and that is a whole new path where I'm going to have to learn a lot about what's this going to look like. I'm sitting on that one. I'm chewing on that one, trying to figure out if that's the path I want to move forward with. Because I also have some creative projects that I've put on pause while I'm doing all of this work with clients and in the community. I really want to develop my own podcast, Matriarchs, Mavericks, and Misfits. And the first season is actually based on a book, Charm, The Career Girl's Guide to Business and Personal Success. I found it a year ago and I was like, I must have this book. And then I bought it and I opened it and it's from 1964. So it's a little different. Chapter 1 is all about your silhouette. So like how you sit in a chair or how you climb stairs. And so I look forward to breaking down the book and highlighting how far we have come for women in business, as well as some things that still exist and some things that are still really hard to overcome. So that's on pause right now just because that's a fun creative project that will maybe make some dollars, but it's not the priority.
Yeah.
And then I'm also in the process of writing a book about my mental health journey, tending to the bleeding hearts in my garden. And that is sort of on pause. I went back to therapy, which I strongly encourage anyone who is questioning it. You should do it. I went back and she was like, I want to understand the objective. And I was like, I want to finish my book. And she was like, is there more to that?
I need more content.
It's more like I have this thing and I know I have to work through it and I need somebody to help me work through it.
Yeah.
And I can't work through it on my own. And I know from that I'll probably get to the end of what this book is. But it is very funny to be like, yeah, I went to therapy to finish my book.
Yeah, that sounds like a movie or a sitcom beginning of it.
Right. So I think I have to decide, do I want to grow what I'm building to be an agency and continue to support businesses? I'm very passionate about supporting rural growth. And I think that coming from an urban environment, I mean, I lived in Minneapolis my entire life till we moved up here in my 30s. And I loved it, ate a lot of really great food, had a wonderful experience. And I also love the silence of the forest. And we are actually dependent on one another in this world and in this society. And we end up having, I think, a lot of conflict with one another that's unnecessary. So how can I continue to support rural growth, whether that's community growth on a human level, economic growth, business development? I know Grand Rapids area here is growing significantly, and I look forward to being part of that. And so I have to ask myself some hard questions. Like, do I want to work on these creative projects, or do I want to be a contributing member of what we're doing here in this region?
Or, how do you balance both?
Yeah.
That could be another big question.
Yeah. I prefer the word harmony over balance. I seek harmony because, like, what is balance?
Yeah, that's work-life balance is a little bit made up in a lot of ways.
Right.
At least I'm finding.
Yeah. I call it a seesaw. Like sometimes like you're just all the way on and so like it's very rarely balanced. It's one or the other most of the time.
Yeah, a lot of times, well, especially think of farming, very seasonal.
Absolutely.
Real estate and what I do seems to be at least mostly seasonal or cyclical. And so you kind of have to make hay while the sun shines to really follow the farm.
Right. Quite literally.
Yeah. Or you, and then you also have to take the opportunities when you have it to, okay, I'm going to rest. We're going to go on a trip.
Yeah.
Go hang out.
Winter will always follow.
Yeah. And you can always write emails and stuff in winter and
exactly
all that fun stuff. As you're starting to talk about maybe building a team, have you looked into who you would hire? You know, a lot of people, and this is something that I've been looking at, is a virtual assistant, somebody who's working maybe in a different part of the country or overseas. It can vary widely, but have you looked into that at all?
I have not looked into that. I have a few people in mind that I would want to bring on because I know their talent already and they're local. And a majority of my clients are local. So it's important to understand what's happening in this community or the operations of this community to be the most impactful. I also, again, think because I want to contribute to our regional economy, then I want to be putting money in my local community's pockets. So that way they're putting it back into businesses' pockets, and we just create this beautiful reciprocal relationship with one another. I think that there is definitely a place for virtual assistants. I don't think that fits for what I want to build or who I would want to lead. Possibly for myself from a calendar management perspective or my business daily mundane tasks. I really hate going through my receipts.
Yeah. Oh, my.
We'll save that for someone else.
How is AI impacting what you're doing too? That's a topic that comes up pretty frequently now.
It is. Maybe I have a hot take. I don't know. Everyone has a hot take on AI. I am adamant that AI can be used as a tool for efficiency in systems and processes, and it is not the right solution for human experiences. I have worked with customers for over 20 years, and part of the reason I'm very good at what I do is because I understand the customer experience and I can step into their shoes. And the number of people who are mad about an AI bot, a chat bot, and anything, to me, like, that's just such a clear indication of, like, they want human experiences. There's some great things that AI can do in, like, producing results when you're looking for different things on somebody's help desk or a help center, things like that. And I think when you really get to a problem, people are often looking for a person. Mm-hmm. From the marketing perspective, there are a lot of new AI tools that are coming out that do a lot of creativity, and that's great until it's inundated and flooded with the same creativity, because it's all really just data sets. So if they're all using the same data sets, they're all producing the same thing. And then we lose this like unique, individualized, custom artwork and creative talent. Mm-hmm. So I'm very heavy on, like, if it's a human thing, we're bringing in a human.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a really good point to a degree. I think we're all seeing it too. It just or raises the threshold. Like, okay, now where before we could post one thing on social media, now because everything is generated so rapidly, more and more is put out. And you're like, okay, in order to stand out, do we have to put out more, or do we change the quality or the level of production? It's a weird time right now to see where it takes it, but it can be incredibly useful for data sets.
Absolutely.
Looking at stats and KPIs for businesses, but it's a weird figuring out where the applications really are or should be.
Absolutely. I think there are times when I will use AI from like a ChatGPT, Google Gemini, whatever, and it's very prompt based. So I think for me, if I have a very large prompt, if this, then that on Tuesday when the sun's out and Santa's on your roof. AI can do a lot of that condensing of knowledge very quickly. I'm that person that's like, include your references every single time because I want to make sure it's accurate. But I don't use it like a Google search. Like, I'm not like, oh, tell me about what color blue would be the best for this, because it uses so much energy to operate these systems that it can also have a detrimental effect on our environment and on water supply. So I'm like, what am I willing to give up a case of water for? The if this, then that, when Santa's on the roof question.
Yeah.
That's what I'll do. Yeah.
So as you're still dreaming about where you're going to be in the next 5 and 10 years, you're talking about expanding and growing the farm and what you're doing at that point. What's ultimately the legacy that you want to leave behind, or the impact that you want to have?
I want people to know they can build the life that they want. And the farm is the ultimate goal. It would be great if in 5 to 10 years, that's the only business I'm running.
Nice.
I'm having a great time right now, and I look forward to being able to slow down in the future. Part of it is, we've had to put in a well. Wells cost a lot of money, so we're constantly catching up. We just built a high tunnel so that way we can grow for an extended season. So there's a lot of infrastructure work for the next 5 years, and then I'd love to get to just farming. And I'm building the life. Like, I can make money in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. It doesn't have to be shift-based. And I think that's what I want people to know. You have the control over your life. I did not learn that until I started going to therapy and changing my mindsets from like, everyone's out to get me, to, oh, it's actually, I am the problem. Like, it's
me. Yeah.
And then choosing, like, well, how do I want to move forward? I can wallow in this and be mad at myself, or I can take control and move forward.
One thing that I've said a lot is I like to happen to things. I don't like things that happen to me. And it's just a different mindset of like, okay, this stuff is happening around me, but I'm going to take control of it, navigate from there. But it's a big mindset shift.
Absolutely. So build your life. Don't get locked in a box. I think that's the legacy I want people to have.
Cool. Right now, what do you feel like is your biggest opportunity?
Define opportunity. Are we talking like
in business, in your personal life? What's something that you're really excited about tackling next?
I'm excited about tackling more speaking engagements. So you had posted, obviously, about the launch of Bridge Out Ahead, and I told you I love to yap. It's true. I have a very zigzag story, and I think that there are elements of it that I could probably be working to niche down and then show up and have a bigger impact in a one-to-many type of scenario. So whether that's speaking at an upcoming conference or joining another podcast, those are the types of things that I think I'm trying to drive towards so I can get that message out there of like, you actually have control over your life. And it is hard and it is doable. So that I think is part of like the creative, like, do I want to go that way or do I want to go with the agency result? And my heart is pulled towards the creative and leave an impact side as we sit here today. Don't hold me to it in 3 months.
Yeah, because you got to buy a well. You got to pay for
the
a well
well's in.
and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but that's life.
Yeah. Next, we got to like level some ground because we've got some buildings to put alpacas in. We're going to get alpacas and goats and, there's work to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we're to our toolbox takeaway section, where we usually ask for a quote or a mindset that you share. We've talked about some, but one quote you sent me earlier, it was that influence is like a boxing ring. Sometimes it takes 9 rounds.
I'm so glad you highlighted this one. Shout out to my coach, Robin. At one point in my tech career, I worked with a coaching company, and because you worked for the coaching company, you got free coaching. And so I got to work with her, and I was still in that negative mindset of everyone's out against me. And I was like, I just don't understand. Like, how can they not see what I've so clearly pointed out? And I have all of this data, and I have all these points, and I've done X, Y, and Z, and like, but I don't understand why they won't move forward with my suggestion. And her comment was, influence is like a boxing ring, and sometimes it takes 9 rounds. And that has significantly changed how I function day to day. I get said no to a lot, and getting used to that is hard. And I think especially because I onboard with new clients all the time, I have to be okay with them not fully trusting me yet. And so I'm now aware I'm going to get a couple punches before you're going to start to see that I keep getting back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some you can also, to draw on the farm, it's like planting seeds.
Oh, man.
You don't get the result right away. It takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes time. You have to nurture it, and then you can see the fruit a lot later on.
Hopefully. Last year we had all crop failure. So
it doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work. And that's where like, okay, you just got to take the punch, accept it, get back up, and be resilient.
Well, cool. Yeah. I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun hearing about your story.
I appreciate it.
And we'll keep following what you're working on. It sounds like you have a lot going on.
I do, in a very fulfilling way.
Cool. Well, thanks again.
Thank you, Bridger.
This episode of Bridge Out Ahead is brought to you by Legacy Bridge Real Estate, brokered by Grand Properties. At Legacy Bridge, we believe real estate is one of the most powerful ways to build wealth. More importantly, to build your legacy. Whether you're buying your first home, selling a property, or looking to invest, our trusted team is here to walk with you every step of the way. Legacy Bridge Real Estate, where legacies begin. Today's theme music is We're Making Good Time by Jed LaPlante. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, no matter the detour you encounter, the road ahead is still yours to build. I'm Bridger Hopkins, and this is Bridge Out Ahead.